Hi.
Hi.
Can I share this screen? I guess I can. Where is my... I need to move this.
Hi.
Hello. I'm so worried about this exam.
I'm very worried about stats.
You have that tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm. Look at this. It's a chicken. Oh, someone.
Hi.
Hi. But that is not a choice. That is just.
Hello.
Yeah. Wait. Hi guys.
Hi, Ruhi. Wait, so how many of these people are on advocacy?
Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm here and Sina's here, so we have like 2 more. Like 6. Yeah. Wait, Sina. Hi. Sorry I'm a little late. I left my laptop charger at my friend's house and had to run here to get it.
You're so good.
Yes. I'll just open the presentation on my laptop.
Yeah, before you start, I'm just gonna talk about the fundraiser really quickly. So I don't know if you want to wait a few minutes.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Hey, how are you?
Hi.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce our fundraiser for the week. So Danny has actually helped us get a partnership with Pine Street Inn, and we're running a toiletries drive through Eventbrite. So this will allow you to purchase like a ticket, which can be anything from like $1 to $7. That's associated with some toiletry. So this is our Eventbrite. Pine Street Inn is a local homeless shelter that provides services to the local homeless population, and Timmy, our club, has volunteered with them in the past. So you'll just click on tickets. And then there's some examples. So you can buy like a razor, deodorant, hand sanitizer, and anything else. And you can buy as many tickets as you'd like and just check out. So this link will be open until 5 p.m. This Saturday. So we love if you can help out. Anything counts, even if it's just $1 hand sanitizer. We know how important that is right now. And yeah, so I'm going to share that link in the chat, and then I'll hand it over to Ruhi, who is leading advocacy tonight.
Hey guys, so today's topic is on alcohol globally. I'll share my screen. Emma, can I share my screen?
Yeah, of course. One sec. I didn't realize I was host. Okay, I just made you host.
Yeah, I'm the host now. Okay, got it. So, see my screen? We're good. Okay. Yeah, so this week's topic is alcoholism globally. So I'll view of alcoholism and then hand it off to everyone else. So alcohol use disorder or alcoholism is a chronic disease and a dependence on alcohol, whether that be physical or mental. What? Can you help me? Thank you. Sorry. Sorry. So as I said, it's a chronic disease characterized by mental or physical dependence on alcohol to like perform other tasks when you don't have access to alcohol. So just this is like a map of alcohol use across the world. So the more like orangey red it is, that means that those countries have a higher percentage of alcoholism. And then purple means like less alcohol use disorder. So this graph is on specifically like alcohol use disorder and not on like just like alcohol consumption. To a website which is like interactive, right? And you can like, click on the countries. Sorry, it's not working, but you can usually click on the countries and it'll like tell you. So for example, like if you hover over states, you can see that like male alcohol use disorder is like 5% and then female is 2%. And then it's lower in like parts of Africa, higher in Eastern Europe, especially in Russia, and in like Southeast Asian countries. So these disparities can be due to like a bunch of reasons, usually economic development or like culture, specifically. And yeah, so historically, alcohol consumption has been very high in European countries and lower in like less developed countries. But over the last 30 years, the trend has been like shifting a bit where alcohol use, isn't concentrated as much in like just developed countries. And like this diffusion is because of a lot of economic growth, and like very fast economic growth is usually correlated with higher alcohol consumption as well, for like recreational reasons, and also like because of alcoholism. The other important thing to note is that in the last 30 years, alcohol consumption, like by volume, globally has increased by 70%. So those are some like trends like globally about alcohol use disorder. COVID-19 has also changed the alcohol intake across the board. So there's a study I published in the Lancet, and they studied a specific hospital in the UK and use disorder before and after like the shutdown for COVID-19. What they saw was a total of 24% of their participants increased their alcohol intake during quarantine, while 19% decreased their alcohol intake. So like overall, there's been like an increase in alcohol consumption. Also, 17% of people who were sober before the quarantine were like started drinking again afterwards. And usually this is because of high levels of stress, because of either economic distress or like emotional distress, or like mental health problems relating to quarantine. So overall, COVID-19 really has like exacerbated alcohol use disorder. I'll hand it off to Sina. Sorry.
So I am going to be talking about the health effects of alcoholism with Yashasvi. So the first two things I'm going to be talking about are liver disease and long-term cognitive effects, and then Yashasvi will go into cancer and then the short-term effects. So first we have liver disease. Basically, the purpose of your liver is to filter out your blood of toxins and then break down proteins and also create bile that absorbs your bodily fats. And heavy drinking, what it does is it causes your body to replace healthy liver tissue with scar tissue, and this causes your liver to stop functioning properly. And this affects your liver because your body can't produce enough protein and filter out the toxins that it needs to be. So 3 types of liver disease are fatty liver, which is basically where you have a buildup of fat in your liver; alcohol hepatitis, which is where your liver cells become inflamed; and then alcohol-related cirrhosis, which is where you have a lot more scar tissue than healthy liver tissue. And both alcohol hepatitis and alcohol-related cirrhosis are risk factors for primary liver cancer. And then kind of going a little bit deeper into cirrhosis, it's the most advanced liver disease that's related to drinking alcohol. And so between 10 to 20% of heavy drinkers develop this disease. And so symptoms kind of start to develop between the ages of 30 and 40, but that also varies, depending on when and how much you're drinking. And then symptoms would be things like jaundice, which is like when your skin and your eyes kind of have a yellow tint, and then portal hypertension, which is increased blood pressure in the veins that run through your liver, and pruritus, which is basically like skin irritation and itching. And then these symptoms can arise into further complications. So there's ascites, which is the buildup of fluids in your stomach, encephalopathy, which is basically like the loss of brain function, which is caused by a buildup of toxins in your blood. So like cirrhosis causes your liver to not be able to filter out those toxins, and this can cause brain damage and mental confusion, and then internal bleeding. And then for treatments, they're mainly to slow progress and minimize your symptoms, but once you have cirrhosis, it can't be reversed. The first step to treating cirrhosis would be to kind of like stopping your drinking problem. But this is often difficult because addiction is a difficult disease to deal with, and often people don't have resources and the support. And also, once you've become extremely dependent on alcohol, the withdrawal symptoms can actually and then after that, they have medications and nutrition, because Alcoholism often causes malnutrition, and then proteins to help reduce the likelihood of developing brain disease. And then finally, you have a liver transplant, but this is often difficult because a patient needs to be sober for at least 6 months in order to be considered a candidate for a liver transplant. And then in terms of cognitive effects, alcohol blocks your chemical signals between your neurons, and this leads to things like impulsive behavior, slurred speech, poor memory, and slowed reflexes. And then heavy drinking forces your brain to adapt to these blocked signals. And to do this, they respond a lot more dramatically to certain neurotransmitters. And so then it leads to things like neurotoxicity, which is when your neurons are overreacting to neurotransmitters, and this can cause burnout, which is you can see through like noticeable slowing of your reactions in the neural pathways. And then your brain matter is also damaged, your white and gray matter. I was supposed to say white, but this causes problems with verbal fluency, verbal learning, processing speed, working memory, and a lot of other memory and higher functions. And then worsen into alcohol-related dementia and Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, which is just basically a chronic memory disorder.
Hi, sorry. Okay, so when we talk about cancer, cancer is majorly a long-term effect of alcohol consumption. The idea is that when you consume alcohol, laid out in the most basic terms, you drink it through your mouth, it goes through your food pipe, enters your stomach, things are filtered in your liver. So basically, alcohol poses risk for cancer, like many different types of cancers: mouth and throat, esophagus, your voice box, colon and rectum, liver and breast. The idea is that it doesn't depend upon what kind of alcohol you consume, but more on how much ethanol percentage is in the alcohol. Ethanol is one of the is a type of alcohol, like chemically defined alcohol, which is a part of the alcohol people consume. So it depends upon how much ethanol is there in the kind of alcohol you consume. And thus the belief that a lot of people have that red wine is good for your health, or this kind of alcohol is good if you keep consuming it over time. That's not exactly true. Building it over time, it is going to make you susceptible to cancer. For example, talking about the states itself, about 6% of all cancers are a result of alcohol consumption, and 4% of all cancer deaths are because of alcohol consumption. What makes it even worse is combining alcohol consumption with smoking, because alcohol, as I will define further, already affects your body in negatively in various different ways. And smoking on top of it makes nicotine absorption, increases nicotine absorption in the body, which further increases the risks for cancer. I talked about the different kind of cancers that alcohol makes you susceptible to. How that exactly happens is, first thing, why alcoholism leads to cancer is the reason being that the ethanol that I was talking about, it is converted into a different product in the body that is called acetaldehyde. This alters the DNA, and now as it is altered the DNA, what happens when we consume alcohol is that our cells and tissues are damaged. And also acetaldehyde has on top of it altered the DNA. Now when cells try to repair and regenerate with the altered DNA, it is very likely that the new cells will be cancerous in nature. Then alcohol further aids in absorption of harmful chemicals. As I was talking about smoking, tobacco smoke, it increases the body's ability to absorb those harmful chemicals, which is definitely not a good thing. It affects body's ability to absorb nutrients, decreases it because that is the kind of effect alcohol has on cells and tissues. It reduces a good amount of positive functionality and increases, as I said, increases the absorption for like bad chemicals for that matter. When I talk about liver cancer, as Sina had pointed out, she mentioned cirrhosis, that is formation of scar tissue in the liver. Because of this development of scar tissue over time, it leads to liver cancer, and that is how liver cancer is very proficient in case of alcohol consumption. Next, when we talk about breast cancer, the thing is, all the other cancers mentioned, it's more like if your alcohol consumption is medically very significant and it's like a constant thing for a long period, uh, you are susceptible to the other to other types of cancers. But cancer, it's an even more sensitive situation. Even small amounts of alcohol can increase the risks for breast cancer. The reason being that alcohol leads to increase in production of estrogen. Estrogen is a hormone produced in women, which is responsible for development and growth of breast tissue. So if there's consumption of or overconsumption of alcohol by women, it can lead to breast cancer. And the other thing, the other common cause for cancer is weight gain, obesity. If it's like you're super overweight, we know that alcohol consumption increases calories in diet. It makes you hungry. It makes you eat more, which can lead to obesity or weight or the person being overweight, and that further increases the risks for cancer. Next slide, please. Thanks. Short-term effects, we all are pretty much aware of a lot of the short-term effects that happen. So I kind of put them couple them up in every bullet point. Slurred speech, drowsiness, as Sina again pointed out. For cognitive effects, it affects the chemical signaling of the brain, and thus it affects your motion and coordination. Like we often see people who are drunk or high on alcohol consumption, that they have a funny manner of walking. They're not very coordinated in their physical activities. Slurred speech, drowsiness, as I mentioned. Of course, if there's a lot of consumption in one go, it can lead to vomiting, upset stomach, diarrhea, because as mentioned, it affects your cells and tissues in that manner. The ones that I highlighted here are anemia, coma, and blackouts. Surprisingly, they are the short-term effects of alcohol, and this implies that even when you're consuming alcohol, it is necessary you keep a check on it, as suggested by, I believe it was the CDC. Uh, a glass, it's probably one, I guess, peg or one glass of alcohol, or the standard amount of alcohol. It's one for women and twice the amount for men per day. If they take it, that's more like a standardized consumption of alcohol and does not really make you that susceptible to its risks. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about alcoholism and family. So economically, spending too much money on alcohols sometimes cause poverty, and it sometimes leads to homelessness. Also, missing work due to being drunk or something, it causes to get unemployed. Genetics of alcoholism. Based on the study of the University of Missouri, alcoholism runs in families, which means that children of alcoholic parents are 4 times more likely to become alcoholic when they get older than those who have non-alcoholic parents. Also, importance of recognizing alcoholism of family member, because people who have alcoholism tend to deny that they are alcoholic, and it's almost the same for like any addiction too. So it is important that people around them understand what alcoholism is, and then eventually lead them to those therapies or recovery sessions.
So I'll be talking about domestic violence and mental health that relate to alcoholism. So first, because alcohol use lowers the self-control levels by affecting cognitive and physical functioning. People who drink are more prone to acting violently when frustrated. So consequently, alcoholism can create marital tension and reduce marital satisfaction. There are two types of abuse that relate to alcoholism, which is emotional abuse and physical abuse. The emotional abuse could be like intimidation, constant belittling, or humiliation. And physical abuse would be like intimate partner violence, such as slapping, hitting, kicking, or beating, forced sexual intercourse, or any other controlling behavior. And according to WHO, 55% of physical assault cases between intimate partners occur when the person drinks a lot. And also like children who witness violence in their family are more likely to display these harmful drinking patterns later in life. So that's why they are 4 times more likely to get alcoholic when they were like older. And mental health, people who drinks a lot can get anxiety, depression, has suicidal thoughts, and insomnia. So approximately there are 30 to 40% of alcoholics that show comorbidity of alcoholism and depression. So like the combination between those problems. And this also can cause depression for family members, especially your significant others and also your children.
I think there was a map of global legal drinking age right before it. It's okay if not. It just kind of showed how
Here it is.
yeah. So that's a picture I found where it kind of shows the global legal drinking age, and for most countries it's around like the 18 to 19 range. And I thought it was kind of really interesting that one of the only countries, not one of the only, but one of the like 4 to 5 countries that have a legal drinking age of 21 is the US, which is kind of interesting. So I looked at global legislation and I focused on the US and China. And for the US, as we all know, the legal drinking age is 21. And there's a lot of regulation with the sale of alcoholic beverages among the states. And there's also a limit on how many drinks businesses can serve and what businesses can sell alcohol to people. When looking to see if someone is legally able to drive, the usual standard for legally driving is 0.08 BAC, but if you're under 21, it's 0. And this is just kind of a picture showing like some of the numbers and stats, and I noticed that some states have like they aren't allowed to sell alcohol to pregnant women, but not really. I mean, 18 states out of 50 is kind of a lot, but I feel like that should be higher. And then the next country I focused on was China, and I kind of picked those 2 countries because the regulations are kind of on the opposite spectrum of each other. So China basically has no limitations. All the things that I found research-wise said it was 18, but lots of families and restaurants serve pretty much anyone who asks for a drink. Over the past 30 years, according to a study I read, there has been a dramatic increase in production and consumption of alcohol, as well as alcohol-related harm, including alcoholism and alcohol dependence. There's not really a lot of legislation to curb alcohol consumption, but one recommendation that a lot of public health experts propose is to increase taxation to kind of decrease spending on alcohol, but they haven't really done that as of right now. And they do have some regulations for drunk driving, and that for the large cities, if someone is drinking and driving or drunk driving, then their license will be revoked and they won't be able to drive for 5 years, which I thought was a pretty cool thing and really interesting because they said it was really successful in larger cities, but it hasn't really been enforced in the medium to small cities. So it's just kind of like it hasn't really been funneled down to the smaller populations. And this graph to the right is just kind of showing the beer consumption. It's not really that current, but I thought it was really interesting how China increased a ton over like, I don't know the years, over like 30 years, which is what I was talking about, while other countries were relatively constant or a little bit increased. And yeah.
So my slide kind of covers resources that people have regarding alcoholism, and a lot of countries have very similar approaches. So the ones that I've kind of listed on the slide are the Netherlands, which is Nix 18 and the Bob campaign. Drink Wise is Australia, and the US has SAMHSA under the US Department of Health and Human Services. And basically, for Nix 18 and Bob campaign, they're more trying to prevent alcoholism from occurring, and it's really geared towards younger people or people that like just start drinking alcohol. And they're more campaigns, so they're not necessarily offering treatment, they're more trying to prevent it before it happens. But a website called Drink Wise in Australia, that's kind of like the hub, it seems, for virtually everything regarding alcohol. And you can find campaigns, which Drink Wise is kind of like the phrase for that, and you can find information about how to control your alcohol consumption, about drinking and driving, the effects of alcohol in pregnancy, how it relates to the law and how it relates to your health. So that's kind of a centralized approach that Australia has. And the US has SAMHSA, which is substance abuse and addiction, which I feel like is a little bit more different because it didn't seem as centralized in terms of its campaign, and it seemed more focused on rehab. I didn't really see, I think campaigns are a lot smaller in the US and more regional rather than like a national one that it seems like the Netherlands and Australia have. But the US is very open about its resources, like the AA is rehab for people that are recovering from alcoholism, and that is a more upfront and I feel like well-known topic in the US. So I feel like these countries have different approaches and how, you know, Netherlands and Australia are more trying to like prevent it from happening, and that's their focus. But then the US is more of like, okay, it's happened. Now here are your resources to like help fix it.
Okay, guys, that was our presentation. Thank you for listening, and I will open it up for discussion. That's fine. So we didn't like prepare any discussion questions, but like off the top of my head, I actually got a question from Meredith. I saw like on your graph, like China like went up kind of exponentially. Did you find anything like in your like research or anything that like would explain why? Or
I didn't necessarily find why, but maybe I was just kind of thinking about that too because I thought that was really interesting. But I think maybe one reason was that the cities were expanding a lot. So maybe people, like more people came to the cities and that was more of a thing to like go out with friends and stuff. But I don't know. I was just assuming. They didn't really go explicitly into what it was. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. Well, not cool, but interesting.
Yeah, that was like a huge trend. So I was like, but like very little information about it.
I obviously I did not research on it. That wasn't my topic. But what I can relate it to maybe is that we know alcoholism is very much driven by social behavior, and like the typical see and follow thing, and something that's considered to be cool. And it's we all know it's not something that developed very recently. That's how alcoholism or alcohol consumption has been in society. So as Meredith talked about some very uh, lenient laws regarding alcohol consumption in China, I'd say probably that was the reason. Of course, added to the expanding cities and everything, then as population increased, cities expanded, there were more people. It's more like follow and see and follow thing. And while rules keep us in check, like China did not really have a lot of rules regarding alcohol consumption. So probably.
Yeah, one of my friends is from China, and she was saying that like there's basically nothing. Like she could go into any place, even if she wasn't 18, and just be like, hey, like I want to share something with my friends. And pretty much every place she went to would serve her. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and then another thing I know is like a lot of countries are focusing their efforts like not so much on limiting alcohol use, but more on like limiting the harmful effects of alcohol use, like curbing underage drinking a bit, or like drunk driving. And just like out of curiosity, does everyone think that's like a more effective or like less effective way to go? Like, do you think it's more important to fix the problem or like the effects of the problem?
I feel it's really hard for them to fix the problem starting from the very beginning by controlling people to drink alcohol, because there are so many cultures that's related to alcohol drinking, like when you go to do business or when you go party, alcohol is always there, although you can choose not to participate in part of it. You might feel peer pressure, or from, I don't know, you might have family like culture that kind of force you into that drinking culture. So I guess the next best resort for them is to try to control it from like stop driving with alcohol. And yeah, that's the best they can do, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And also, I don't know if people like, I don't think anyone really wants to get rid of like drinking altogether. I think it's more like only when it becomes like a problem. So I think in that sense, like limiting like drunk driving and stuff like that would be more effective than like trying to like, stop people from drinking alcohol. And like we've also seen like globally, countries that like ban alcohol like outright don't really see like success in limiting alcoholism, because like it is a disease, and it can't just be like stopped by taking away alcohol. Like that's not really how that works. So yeah, I think that like targeting like more of the effects is more effective. Yeah.
I don't know where I read this or heard this or something, but there was, I think it was one of my friends, he lived in Europe, and he said that the driving age was higher than the drinking age. So kids would know how to like get rides home, and they would know their limits before they tried to drive. And I just thought that was a really kind of cool idea. But I don't think anybody in America would ever go for that.
No, I think that's also like, I feel like that makes a lot more sense. Like teach an Uber home rather than like trying to drive. I think that's a lot more helpful.
Uber like effects, or like how, how what?
I don't know. Can you guys hear Julie? She's like next to me on this side. Okay. Yeah, just make sure you can hear. Yeah.
No, I was just wondering, has anyone found anything about, like, because I know like that's more and maybe sometimes cheaper, like how that would maybe decrease like DUIs and like accidents.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure it has, but I think also Uber is like more concentrated in like cities. So I think what's important is targeting more like rural, places. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything to add? Okay, well, that's all we have. Thank you guys for coming and have a great evening. And good luck on midterms.
Yeah, you also such an amazing.
Hey, Emma, sorry, my connection's.
Thank you.